My dear friends, every time I sit here, I am touched by something beautiful, something spiritual. Somehow in the simplicity of this room and in the quiet of being here, I feel here a mystery as well. The mystery of something that I will even dare to call sacramental. We usually confine the sacraments to the chapel, to the church, but sacrament happens whenever and wherever the grace of God is given. And I pray that this grace may be given to you and I. I need it, and I hope that you will also need it too. We are going to be vessels, instruments, unworthy servants. And this is my pride, to be that, a servant unworthy, an empty vessel. As Paul said, we are jars of clay jars. And we are able to hold a treasure. And this treasure is the Word of God. And if in previous talks this word has been beautiful and powerful, I believe that today it is especially so. I continue this pilgrimage or this great epic history of the people of Israel out of Egypt and now into another stage when they entered the desert. If you remember, in the last talk, we were facing the reality, the bitter reality, that when we are facing adversity, trouble, contradiction, what the desert realizes or what the desert signifies, then we complain. Let me continue reading the book of Exodus. I will start reading since the last verse, the verse we also read last time. When they reached Marah, they could not drink the Marah water because it was bitter. This is why the place was named Marah. The people complained to Moses, saying, "What are we going to drink?" Moses appealed to Yahweh for help, and Yahweh showed him a piece of wood. When Moses threw it into the water became sweet. Last year, when I was in Spain during the Eastern retreat, Chus, he delivered a beautiful talk, and he mentioned about this amazing event, this episode, the bitter waters, unable to be drunk. And then how Moses, threw a piece of wood, a log, into the water, and then the water suddenly became sweet. And he explained how this log actually signifies another wood, another piece of wood, the tree of the cross. So, this tree that Moses threw into the water foreshadows the tree of the cross. And also here the water has plenty of meaning, because actually when Jesus was on the cross, from his side, also flew water. John chapter 19 verse 34. And the water also signifies the grace of eternal life, as Jesus told to the Samaritan woman, "Whoever drinks of the water, I shall give him a spring of water welling up to eternal life." These waters they have the power to refresh the soul and remove all roots of bitterness and contention with God. Today I'm going to talk about the cross. The cross that is shocking, unpleasant, ugly, an instrument of destruction. Actually, a friend of mine, who is a Catholic and also his sons are a Catholic, he told me that actually one of his sons was not happy that a cross should be displayed, in the house. He said, that is ugly. What is the point, of hanging a cross? Something really ugly. What is the purpose? It is shocking because actually this is the first time I have heard such a comment, but maybe from now on we may be used to hear it more often. People don't like crosses. It is not beautiful. It is not, an instrument, or I would say an object of decoration. So the message of the cross is foolishness, stumbling block. But Paul said, but to those who are saved, it is the power of God. So there is power. There is power in the cross. This is something that we keep on saying and saying. There is power in the cross. I would like to tell you today something very concrete, not just ideas, very real, very down to earth. Every morning I get up very early, and then we have the mass, the morning mass, at 6:30. So before that I go to our terrace that is actually very close to this room, and then I practice Tai Chi. And then I realized many years ago already that there is a picture of the cross. I have it here with me. Those of you who are familiar with Spanish art may recognize that this is the cross of Velázquez, the most famous picture of Velázquez. And then, since the very beginning, the very first day, I felt the need, to kiss the cross. So I kiss, starting from the feet, his hands, the side, and also the head. I do it every day. And after that, I bow to the cross. It has become a ritual, something that I do on absolute regularity. After I finish the practice, I come back, so I pass by the place where this picture is standing, and then I kiss the cross, But then, of course, eventually, the practice of kissing the cross led me to ask myself, what are you really kissing? What is the purpose? What is the meaning? When you kiss Jesus' wounds, his hands, his feet, his side, his head, what actually are you kissing? Because that is the difference, I would like to tell you, between a devotion or a ritual devotion and spiritual practice. A spiritual devotion is to perform a kind of action, a ritual, but totally, absolutely unrelated to your life. As I have told you, I think before, sometimes I also see, when I go running in Bowen Road, I see people, and then there is a garden, and there is a kind of religious side there. So people, when they pass by, they just nod their heads and they make this ritual, very, very, very serious. They are not playing, they do it very seriously. But as far as I have been explained and as far as I understand, this kind of ritual doesn't involve the whole person in terms of love, faith, spiritual communion. It seems that it doesn't. It is just, a kind of action in order maybe to make a wish, or to please that God, so that God will not be upset, will not be pissed off. But when we perform rituals or actions that are really connected to our life, then we can say that these are not just rituals, but it is actually practice, spiritual practice, because it has the goal, is to transform our lives. So as I'm saying, every time I kiss, then I ask myself, what actually are you kissing? What wounds are you kissing? And then the answer is clear. I must also kiss those realities, big or small, that are painful to me. And then when I kiss the hands, I also think of the meetings of the school that I don't like. Meetings, gatherings, reunions. I don't feel comfortable. I kiss it. I may also think of people that are different from me. I kiss them. I kiss the wounds thinking of them. I kiss of the realities in my life that are painful. So for me, kissing the wounds is kissing my own wounds. That is the thing. So at the end of the day, my wounds and his wounds are merged together, are one. And there is something here that is amazing, is absolutely amazing. Because you see the sequence of the events, at the beginning, at the very beginning, when we see the cross, we are drawn to kiss it, and because Jesus is good, because Jesus is love, because in his cross Jesus proclaimed and manifested his love, so it's so common, so normal, so widespread for Christians. Sorry, maybe not so much for Christians, but at least for Catholics, to kiss the cross. Even, one of the main parts of the celebration in Good Friday is the adoration of the cross. And in countries like Spain, people do actually kiss the cross. It's a way to show devotion, adoration, to worship the cross. And also, with the kissing, there is an obvious element of affection, of tenderness, of love. Affection, tenderness, love. So the cross is able to bring from us, this element of love, of affection, of sweet tenderness. This is the first step. Very clear. But then, imagine, slowly, gently, without any effort whatsoever, without any violence whatsoever, you start kissing Jesus' wounds and you start showing affection, tenderness, love to Jesus' wounds. That is the first step. But again, without any effort, slowly, gently. In Chinese, there is a way of saying that I like to share with you, Pat Chi Pa Kok, without being aware. Pat Chi Pa Kok Kam, without being aware, you start kissing your own wounds. Those wounds that, as I said in the last talk, those adversities, those bitterness that make you complain. That is the normal reaction, The weather, health, a cold, a flu, whatever it is, people, circumstances, these situations that your middle brain, your emotional brain, instantly will be triggered by a response of disgust, anger, contempt, at the most extreme, hatred, anger, rage. That is the normal reaction, the primitive reaction, the animal reaction. As the Israelites, when they are and they taste, it is bitter, and they complain. So the animal in them, without thinking, immediately, prompted them to complain, to protest, to rage. But imagine, in this practice that I am telling you, you start kissing Jesus because it is normal for many of us, to feel love for him. Love, gratitude, tenderness. And then, Pat Chi Pa Kok Kam, unconsciously, you realize that actually you just not can stop at just kissing his wounds. It will be hypocrisy. You need to also kiss your own wounds. And kissing your own wounds, it is not easy to do it with disgust. It is not natural to kiss your own wounds with contempt, with rage, with anger, with bitterness. If you kiss Jesus' wounds because you worship his death, and he invites you, to also accept your own death, and then you kiss your wounds, there is a transformation there, amazing, and most beautiful. And then it's true, meetings are not so horrible, and people are not so disgusting, and then a cold or a flu is not so unbearable, and then the miracle happens, as Jesus said, my yoke is easy and my burden light. Exactly. And somehow, in this practice, in this spiritual practice, the bitterness of life has been, made sweet. That is the miracle of the cross. As you see, it's simple, but no less real. I would like to finish today's talk mentioning one of our greatest spiritual treasures, our dearest, St. John of the Cross. There is a friend of mine in Spain who is also a member of a community that rely on the protection and guidance of St. John of the Cross, to, that is not the word to achieve, I will say it, to pray for a spiritual and inner healing. And then she invited me to prepare something, or even to give a talk on St. John of the Cross on this particular issue. And I will be so happy to do it, because St. John of the Cross is one of my dearest, guiding lights. I would like to say something about that. The first thing I would like to say is that for many years I just couldn't approach him. St. John of the Cross and all these saints in my generation, as I explained before, they belong to the old era, to the pre-Vatican era, to the old spirituality. For me, everything was related to it was murky, ugly, cloudy, unpleasant. I never dared to touch them. For me, they were scary because of when they talk about mortification, self-denial, etc. I wouldn't like to do anything to do with them. And not only myself, but also my environment. I don't remember that either my classmates or in the time of formation, actually we were very much attached to St. John of the Cross. That is the reality. And then again, my surprise was that when I started, after studying psychology, and then after realizing that actually some psychologists were also writing on spirituality, then I read their books, and some of these psychologists, they also mention St. John of the Cross. So I was really surprised and touched. And then finally, I got in touch with him. And I am so grateful. Since then, he has been, what can I say, one of my major friends, spiritual friends. So there is a text that I would like to bring today, coming from his book, Ascent to Mount Carmel, Book 2, Chapter 7. Paragraphs 3, 7, and 11. Here, St. John of the Cross, I wouldn't like to read all of them because it could be too tedious, and I would like to get the main idea. The main idea. Here, St. John of the Cross says or emphasizes the fact, that Jesus had to surrender or had to suffer at two levels. At two levels. One is the outer level, the sensitive part, how Jesus had to surrender and had to go through all the pain, all the suffering of his execution, the physical pain of being flogged, the pain of the cross. On the other hand, Jesus had to undergo the pain of the defeat of his mission, being mocked, being a laughing stock, have to surrender of his dignity, being naked, being ashamed, a terrible shame. But St. John said this was not enough. This was not enough. If Jesus had in his heart, the total assurance that God was with him, actually he will be confident, to go through death. But what St. John said is that even Jesus had to surrender not only the physical and the external pain the sensitive pain, the emotional pain, but also the most horrible and terrible spiritual pain, being or feeling abandoned by God. Because John is talking about, the dark night of the soul. And the way he understands that, and the way he had not only understand, experience that, is not just suffering, at the level of the body or at the level of the emotions, the sensitive suffering. John even experienced, a complete destitution, being abandoned by God. Actually, I don't know what is that. Okay, sorry. I have to say I do. Of course, not at the level of John. But I also, I experienced that, as I have shared with you, when at the age of 24, I felt so abandoned, And the same that John, I also experienced that my only consolation is that Jesus actually experienced not the same, but millions of times more. The suffering of the Son of God, wretched, mocked, even deserted by God, offers a home for everyone's sorrow. This is the message of the cross. The suffering of Jesus, the suffering of the cross. Makes possible that we wouldn't feel alone. Jesus was there. So, although he didn't experience, let us say, the pain of giving birth, of losing a son, he didn't experience any or every kind of pain, but yes, he suffered the intensity of the worst of all, even to the point of being abandoned by God. My God, why have you forsaken me? This is the ultimate source of healing. Jesus is not giving explanations. He is not writing a treatise or an essay about suffering. He is not trying to give consolation words. If you are suffering, or if you are in pain, whatever it is, pain in the body, pain in the soul, health, disease, breakdown in relationships, trouble at work, whatever it is, the Son of God is telling you, I am here with you. I also touch that pain. Kiss my wounds, and through kissing my wounds, you will achieve sweetness, and these wounds will give you, your wounds, a purpose. Whatever you may be in, whatever your condition may be, Jesus has already touched and sanctified that abyss. Nothing is strange, nothing is alien, nothing is too far. He is there. So it is possible, my dear friend, not to complain. It is possible to embrace. It is possible to kiss his wounds and at the same time to kiss yours. God bless you.